Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today with my review for Borderlands 3. Borderlands 3 was a game, honestly, that I had pegged for greatness, and that's what made crafting this review so tough. It was sort of some self-induced damage. The first 10 hours are solid, even as someone who has already been through most of that content thanks to preview events that I had attended. But as the hours waned on, bugs, glitches, crashes, and the like hurt my experience. Normally, I'm very forgiving. You all know me, okay? I played a lot of BGS games, but there was a point I nearly gave up because of how ridiculous the experience became. In turn, the story that never really takes itself serious until the final hours bothered me further, but once it was all said and done, I reached the end game, the place where I believe Borderlands 3 truly manages to shine. Don't get me wrong, Borderlands 3 is still good at the end of the day, but this was much more of a bumpy ride than I ever anticipated, and if the gameplay wasn't as strong as it was, I'd likely be ripping into this game. It'll sound harsh at first, but if you're someone leaping in here to defend the game, just give me some time, okay? Give me a little bit of time. Let's get started with what I consider the worst part of the game, the main story. This is really sad to say. I think myself and many others had high expectations after Borderlands 2 took us on a memorable journey. I didn't want another handsome Jack, and I wouldn't even say my standards were that high, but good God, the Calypso twins were actually some of the most poorly written villains I've ever had the displeasure of encountering. They're an endless revolving door of butt and poop jokes that genuinely made me question at one point if Gearbox understood what Borderlands humor was all about after all their years away from the franchise. I will even go to the length of arguing that as someone with an occasionally immature sense of humor, that these jokes are objectively bad. They are anti-funny. There are moments where the game is actually hilarious though, like when Mordecai brings you to a birthday party. That side quest on Pandora, it is the perfect level of dark humor that made me fall in love with this series, but those moments are sadly few and far between. It's not just the villains though, because I feel like then we start getting to Handsome Jack, how great he is, and how the Calypso twins pale in comparison, but it's just most of the game across the board has been downgraded when it comes to writing. It's not as captivating, intriguing, or funny. In fact, I'd go to the length of saying the game is trying too hard to get a couple of nose snorts out of you, and I'll admit I'm a tough customer for game humor, but Borderlands and South Park have been the only two that can ever consistently crack me. With that said, Borderlands 3's story doesn't have to be all fun and games. It's not always going to be about the humor. Part of the reason I love 2's story is that because it had that moment of holy crap, they just went there, and delivered on some really serious moments. There was a contrast that shocked me, and it delivered what was a good story. That blend of a good tale wrapped in humor is nigh impossible to do, so I was shocked when even some of the serious moments in this game dropped the ball. Ultimately, Borderlands 3's main quest will have you going from planet to planet in a race to get vault keys before the Calypso twins do because they want to sap power from the vaults and yada yada yada. While I may not have been a fan of the story, the locales, the art direction, give these people a raise. It's truly masterful. From Promethea's bustling metropolis to Eden 6's damn jungles, every planet is large, densely packed, and more importantly, beautiful. Combine that with a new level of verticality in the levels and world design across the board, it was top notch. They really knocked it out of the park with making each and every single planet feel truly different. Around the story's conclusion, I didn't feel the disappointment that I've seen online many did. I actually liked how the game wrapped up and found it to be the strongest part of the package, which served as a vehicle delivering me to the game's saving grace, the Endgame. Now, as you've seen in probably a number of marketing cycles and other reviews, Borderlands 3 is all about shooting and looting, except it's smoother than ever and has more movement mechanics attached to it, such as sliding and mantling. There are 3 skill trees, augments to equip, and action skills you can cycle between. It's deep, it's fun, it's replayable, it's what you know about Borderlands. When I unlocked Mayhem mode though, when the game wrapped up and I was able to up the ante, get better loot, fight different enemy types, I loved Borderlands 3 more than ever, especially when there was true Vault Hunter mode if I wanted to restart, Proving Grounds, Circle of Slaughter if I just wanted to grind stuff out, and when activating the Mayhem mode, all my side quests bumped up to my level excellent touch there. I went from being ready to drop the game at around level 39 to itching to play every night with my friends. I've never experienced such a transformation so late in the game. I thought it was in the books. I was ready to be one of the 5 people on the internet shredding Borderlands 3, but then I hit the end game and was like, yo, this is so much fun. Part of it, I will say, is situational, something you should be aware of. My friends and I like to chill in PS4 party chats most nights, and Borderlands 3 is the perfect game for that because I don't have to focus too hard on what's going on in the terms of narrative and can talk with my friends. But it's also that the loot is so exciting because guns play out so differently. Despite such a difference in guns, I did find myself sticking with the same legendaries for much longer than expected, a la Borderlands 1 actually, despite how far apart my character level and my weapon level became. The action on screen can get super chaotic, and I will note that there was one time the action was so frantic my friends and I actually got a headache, and I never personally have received a physical ailment from a game, but it led to me taking a few days away from the game because even the day after we all still felt a little off. There was just so much going on, so many flashing colors, explosions, and particle effects. It's impressive that the game's running on, for example, what I played on a base PS4, but at the same time, maybe just tone it down a little bit. I've just thoroughly enjoyed hopping between zones, doing quests, and building out characters in unique ways. This is something that's really strong with the game because as the main story went on, I was just like, you know what, I want to get this over with. I'm over leveled as it is. Another issue in this game where I instantly propelled past the actual main level requirement for the main story, and so I stopped doing side quests out of sheer principle that I didn't want to just breeze through the game. And so having all those quests level back up to me allowed me to now know that when I go in for a second playthrough, I can take this game at whatever pace I want. I can wait to do the side quests afterwards and just breeze through the main story as much as I want, do enough side quests to make sure that I'm just a high enough level. It's really up to you, and I like how they did that endgame content. However, with all of that good stuff being there, it wasn't really bug-free for me. You guys know, once again, gotta emphasize this, I am probably the most lenient person on YouTube when it comes to bugs, because ultimately, you know, if my game drops like 5 frames, 10 frames, I really am not going to lose my mind over it unless it hampers my experience. If it's something I know and I continue on and keep playing the game, who cares? But Borderlands 3, it got pretty bad. I mean, look, there were times we couldn't get out of the car. Quests did not trigger, such as being able to talk to someone to have it continue, or the AI not going where they needed to for progression. There were times I fell through the map, not being able to go to the next location to unlock new quests to continue the story, having to reset lobbies. Laggy menus has been a very big and prominent issue, and so on. It got so bad on Eden 6, which is one of the best planets for the story and the art direction. It's where you really could start to fall in love with the game, but for me, it actually did the opposite. I nearly quit the game at this point. It made me wonder how folks got through this game multiple times already because so many quests simply did not work for me. All these hindrances led me to be less forgiving on other parts of the game. You may be sitting there and going, oh man, he's being too hard on the story, but I could have gone, ah man, bugs suck, but at least the story's good. I couldn't even praise the gameplay much early on because when the game was crapping itself, I had the bugs there that wouldn't let me progress, so it was just leaving me stuck and frustrated. It's still in desperate need of patching, some of which Gearbox has already gone on top of, and others that my friends and I constantly experienced and still haven't even been mentioned in patch notes. Now let's get into the audio a little bit. This game's audio is fantastic. Gun sounds are insanely good. I've seen games that have a selection of, we'll say 12 guns, and they have to get those right, and they just drop the ball on such a small number. Yet Borderlands 3 has like 1,000,000 times all of those guns, and yet they still sound so good. Revolvers and shotguns really have oomph and kick. Assault rifles roar. Abilities have their own sound cue so you know when a teammate's using it, even if you're not looking at them. It's a game whose audio is so good that you can tell what's going on around you if you close your eyes and just use your ears. The soundtrack in this game also super underrated. For such a loud game, the quiet moments are aided by really peaceful tracks that rest in the background. They're so good, sometimes I'd want to stop and just listen to them because I didn't want the action to interrupt them. So ultimately, much like the game's experience, you've probably noted a bit of a roller coaster ride in this review. He's hating it. Oh, he's praising it. He loves this game. Wait, no, he's really upset with this game. Where do I stand on it? Quite honestly, yes, it's one of the fastest selling 2K games of all time. So I'm sure a lot of people who were interested in the game already picked it up, but maybe you're waiting for it to come out on Steam. Maybe you're still a little bit unsure. My suggestion, ladies and gentlemen, wait for a sale on Borderlands 3. I really like this game, but it took until beating it to fall in love with it. And at the same time, those bugs really hindered my experience a lot, where it brought this game from being something I would have recommended at $60 to something that if I saw this review, went out, bought the game, and then had that experience that I personally had, I would be furious at the reviewer. So I can't in good conscience, despite the fun I managed to have here, recommend to you guys to pick up this game. A lot of issues that I talked about in impressions and preview builds from months ago, and I've carried into the main game, are still present. Now, they did mention the Kilovolt boss is getting fixed, which I saw some people in the comments telling me I was just bad at the game, but I told y'all, boss was busted. Anyway, that'll do it for my Borderlands 3 review. Just wait to pick this game up. I'd say around the $40 price point, or maybe even $50. Just wait till there's a good number of patches inside this game, because right now it's just too unstable to suggest for the full $60. That'll conclude my Borderlands 3 review. I'd love to hear from all of you in the comments down below. Are you enjoying Borderlands 3? Are you excited to play more? Are you on the fence? Let me know. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below, along with my Patreon. Do consider supporting that, as it fuels all the content I create here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.